Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. I'm really excited to bring you this video today. I think it's going to be a super popular video in my montage and what I've got for you. I think it's a video that people are going to be watching hopefully for years and years to come. I'm going to take you back a couple years, maybe 3-4 years ago. Pre-COVID, if you can imagine. I was collecting primarily ultra modern prospects. The De'Aaron Fox, the Giannis, Jaylen Browns, Ben Simmons, Tatum Mitchell. I was hooked on Prism, right? I was pulled back into the hobby by Panini with the Prism era and hyper-focused on ultra modern shiny stuff, or I guess at that point it would be called modern shiny stuff. I'd always loved Jordan. I'd always wanted to look into Jordan, start to collect Jordan, but I'll be honest with you, I was intimidated and overwhelmed because I didn't know much about it. I did not collect in the 90s. Those of you who have watched my videos about where I came from and what my history in the hobby is, I did not collect in the 90s. So I was hesitant and nervous. There were many barriers to entry. I wasn't educated. I didn't know what to buy in the Jordan market. I wanted to get in. I wanted to dabble, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And I turned to YouTube. I'll be honest with you. I started to finally look and digest and research and try to find content on YouTube. And there was a few channels. There was 3 channels really that kind of got me into the Jordan market and got me over that hump to say, all right, I've got a lot of money in these relatively risky modern prospects. I would like to, that was the investor side of me, right? The investing is what brought me back in the hobby. But the collector side of me wanted something more conservative, more predictable. I wanted some more blue chip. If you're going to look at it from an investment perspective, I wanted blue chip cards that I didn't have to worry about going up or down based on the performance of the player or injuries or things like that. So I watched, and this is probably a no-no for YouTube content creators. I'm going to give you other content that you should go watch. But PSA Collector had a couple of top Jordan cards sold videos that I watched, which were fascinating. Cardboard Chronicles with Josh Johnson was absolutely mesmerizing to me because there was a heavy focus on 90s cards and collecting. Again, I'm coming at it from a point of pure ignorance. And then, of course, House of Jordans was an epiphany for me just before COVID. And those 3 channels kind of put me over the hump to really kind of hyper-focus and digest and jump into the Jordan market. So I'm trying to create something for this video is primarily for new Jordan collectors who haven't quite taken the leap yet, or who may just want to know more about it, or even existing Jordan collectors who may want to go down another rabbit hole. Let me just switch you over, and we're just going to start going. This is not rehearsed. I don't have a script. I'm really just kind of, I wanted to give you guys, especially you new guys, a million ways, well really 23 ways, I could have gone to 50, but 23 ways to get into the Jordan market on any type of budget, right? Some of these are going to be super expensive endeavors. Some of these will be super cheap. Some of these you can pick and choose. You may not choose 1 out of the 23. You may choose 7, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this list, but anyway, here's the rules. Number 1, these are not in any particular order. I am not endorsing any particular way to collect Michael Jordan basketball cards. That is not what I'm here for. I don't need to hype the Jordan market or the player, Michael Jordan. But I do want to stress this is not number 23 is the 23rd best way and number 1 is the best way. It's not. I put them in totally random order. I did not put any thought into what order these come in. I simply started writing down ways that you could get into the Jordan market and kind of stay focused. One of the biggest concerns about getting into the Jordan basketball card market is there is such a plethora, such a massive number of ways that you can collect that you can get overwhelmed and it can burn through your pocketbook. So hopefully you can use this list to kind of hyper focus and take baby steps, and then maybe even combine a couple of them depending on what your budget is. So they're not in a particular order. As we just talked about, you can collect Michael Jordan in a way that you can spend 7 figures in 7 days, or you could collect them in a way where you're picking up cards literally for $1. There are pathways where you can buy cards for $1 and build an incredible, enjoyable collection. Some of these are not going to be the best investment, best directions for investments, but they may be the best way for you as a collector. So you do not have to pick one. That is number 3 on my list here. These are just ideas to consider if you're new or you want to go down a new rabbit hole. You don't have to choose. Number 17 is, okay, that's what I'm doing. It could be 17, 11, 4, and 3. You can combine these to expand the breadth of your focus in the Jordan, but this is just an attempt to help you kind of try to stay focused and build in one direction and educate yourself. This list is illustrative, not exhaustive. Obviously, collect your own way, do your own thing, buy a Jordan card a month, or buy 100 Jordan cards a month, or don't ever buy Jordan cards. I don't care. I'm just putting this out there because I thought it might be helpful for new collectors to get over that hurdle and get going. Anyway, so let's begin. You're going to like my new transition here. Watch this. Oh my gosh, yes. Number 23, just 1980s cards, right? Here's a way. If you want to collect Jordan, maybe the best way is to start at the beginning. So focusing just on his 1980s cards. I've got a couple of cards on here on the screen. If you wanted to collect 80s cards, you've got 1980s Jordan cards, like the Star 101 from 1984. You got the 86 Fleer on your screen on the left. You can, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can literally spend over $1 million just buying those 2 cards. Or you could pick up, the card on the right, his Hoops card. You can pick up super cheap, there are 80s cards that aren't, again, 80s is going to be a little bit tough on the budget standpoint because you've got your star cards, you got your Nike promo, you've got some obscure stuff as you see, on your screen with the Panini sticker. So it can get pricey. 86, 87, 88, 89 Fleer are going to be a little bit pricey depending on your grade. But if you want to pick up low grade 1980s Jordan cards, that's option number 1. Again, I could talk forever about the cards for Jordan in the 1980s, guys. I could sit here and literally do a video on 1980s Jordan cards and talk for an hour and a half. But 1980s cards is number 23. Let's look at number 22 on our list, 1990s cards. So along the same run, this is kind of where I jump in. I sort of hyper-focus on Jordan cards from the 90s. Do I have cards from the 80s? Yes. But I primarily focus on Jordan inserts and parallels from the 90s because that's what floats my boat. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I fell in love with when I was watching House of Jordans back in the day, pre-COVID, riding my bike, trying to stay away from everybody, right? 90s cards is amazing because you can buy base Jordan cards from the 90s in raw condition for 50 cents each. You can buy, inserts or parallels. I've got some, and again, these cards on the screen are these are just cards for illustration. I mean, these are just random cards from the 90s that I pulled off a card ladder that fall into the category that we're talking about of 1990s cards. You could buy the Hot Shots die cut, insert for $1 zillion in PSA 10 condition, or you could buy this ultra famous nicknames on your screen for anywhere from a few $100, pushing $1,000 to in PSA 7 condition, it's probably $20. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but you could focus just on the base cards from the 90s, or you could start at the bottom of the 90s and work your way up, or you could, you can move all over the 90s. The 90s is a really big decade with a really vast array of options of Jordan cards, from the most expensive to the least expensive. So you can really set your budget by buying Jordan cards from the 90s. If you wanted to start in 1990 and just kind of work your way up, you can do that as well. Obviously, the further you get into the decade, the more potential products and cards there are available as as Fleer and Topps and the different companies started to make more and more different products and more cards. So that's option number 22 is just 1990s cards in general. It's just a way to hyper focus and eliminate the 80s, eliminate the 2000s and the non-playing years and the Wizard stuff and the retros, and just stick to the 90s cards. Number 21 on our list is foreign cards. This is a unique little niche, right? I've got a friend of mine, Stanley, who specializes in these foreign Jordan cards. I've just pulled 4 and posted them on there. I don't know a damn thing about this, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. I feel like I know more about collecting Michael Jordan cards than most people on earth. I know nothing about collecting Michael Jordan foreign cards. If I was going to buy a Michael Jordan card from another country, I would never do that without consulting with one of my friends who's an expert on collecting Michael Jordan cards from other countries. I know there's a super expensive card from Yugoslavia. I could recognize it if I saw it. I know that there's tons of Panini Spanish stickers. I know there's Italian cards. I know there's cards from Venezuela. So this is a real niche, right? So this is if you really wanted to kind of hyper focus and focus on a really small niche of Michael Jordan cards. Foreign cards would be an option for you. This is not my choice. This is not the pathway that I would take. But that's what's beautiful about collecting Jordan cards is I've got tons of friends who collect Jordans. Many of them have 7, legitimately, I'm not exaggerating, 8-figure collections, and they may not have any foreign cards either. So you can collect Jordan forever and not have a foreign card in your collection, or you could hyper focus and collect only foreign cards. This is just giving you another option and a way to get into the Jordan market. So number 20, insert cards. Okay, so this is a big one, right? So this is my number one passion in the hobby, right? I'm a set collector. I do love putting sets together, but more than anything, collecting Michael Jordan insert cards, specifically for me from the 90s, is that is my passion. That is always my number one overarching goal in this hobby. It supersedes investing. It supersedes set collecting. It supersedes modern prospecting. It supersedes anything and everything you could ever imagine. For me in the hobby, this is number one, and it's listed number 20 on our list. So as you must reiterate, this list is in no particular order. This is probably the most popular way for new Jordan collectors to enter the Michael Jordan basketball card collecting market. And so you've got some monsters on your screen. I just, grab 4 random ones. You've got your Scoring Kings, which is one of his foundational pieces from 1993 Ultra with the lightning in the background. You've got your Fleer Total D, one of his earliest inserts. You've got your Platinum Portraits over there on the right, and then you've got your Hot Shots die cut. And again, you can collect these cards in lower grades and reduce your budget. You can collect it in the highest grade possible and blow your budget real quick on one card. Or maybe you can't ever afford a card in the highest grade, and that's fine. You can collect Michael Jordan insert cards from the 90s and put together a collection of hundreds and hundreds of cards, all inserts, and literally thousands of inserts, and never get to the 4 that you see on the screen because they're too expensive. That's fine. If it's just about collecting, this is a serious option to consider because it's an incredible variety of different products. It spans almost the entire decade. It just gives you a million. It's a very broad. It is a path, right? It's one of the paths. It's number 20. Insert cards only, but insert cards only includes thousands of options in a myriad of different budgets. So number 20 option is insert cards. Number 19 option is stickers only. I want to collect Jordan, but I don't know where to start. I don't know. I can't afford the inserts. I'm going to collect only sticker cards. So this is where you're going to get a little bit of a blend. I've got 4 domestic sticker cards. These are not cheap in high grade. They're incredibly expensive in high grade. If I picked up these 4 cards on your screen in PSA 10 condition, it would cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. I am not exaggerating. It would probably be over $200,000. I think the 86 Fleer PSA 10 XRC sticker just went for $110,000, and it's hit $250,000, I think, during the freaky crazy 2021 bubble. If I recall, I may be wrong on that, but I think it eclipsed 200,000. Right now, it's about $100,000. So you're talking about $100,000 for a sticker, yeah. But if you wanted to pick it up in PSA 4 or PSA 3, or you wanted to pick up the stickers on your screen, all in PSA 4, 5, or 6 condition, that can be done. Stickers is also going to bring you probably over into Italy, over into Spain, into other countries, because stickers were very popular in Europe. A lot of the Jordan foreign stuff that we looked at as one of our prior options on this list, incorporate stickers, because that's really big over in Europe, and of course that emanates from soccer. A lot of the first, a lot of the collectibles in Europe for the sport of soccer started as stickers, and I think Panini, from what I know about Panini, my limited knowledge of Panini and the origin of that company was they kind of started in stickers. So stickers is another option, guys. It can be very expensive in high grade. It can be very affordable in low grade, and it can even take you around the world to Europe and South America and other countries. Number 18, Wizard's Year cards. I love this idea, right? And I've really tried to resist this pull. I have dabbled in this. Like I said, if you go through these 23 options, I think I'll collect maybe 11 of them. So I'm broadening the scope of my Jordan collection. When I see a card that I want, sometimes I will take a detour off my lane. I'll take an exit ramp off my interstate of insert cards from the 90s, and I'll dabble in this. Wizards cards years would be a very cost-effective, low budget way to get involved in Jordan. And I think, honestly, from an investment perspective, certain Jordan Wizards year cards featuring Michael Jordan in a Wizards uniform, I believe, are a little bit undervalued. Again, I'm not throwing tons of money into it. I'm certainly not telling you go buy Wizards cards. It's the best investment in the business. You'll never hear me say, go buy this. This is the best investment. You'll never hear me say that. But I can tell you I've dipped into the Wizards cards. I like some of his Topps Pristine stuff. I like some of his Topps Chrome Refractor stuff, especially refractor inserts. You can do that. You can buy Wizards cards in high grade. You can buy Wizards cards, Wizards Jordan cards in PSA 10 or BGS 9.5 condition and still not kill yourself on your budget. You can't do that with 1997, Jordan inserts in PSA 10. You'll get murdered on your budget, right? You've really got to put a lot of money aside to do that. But the Wizards cards kind of allow you to do that in a dumpster diver kind of method. And if you wanted to hyper focus on the Jordan base cards, like some of these cards you see on your screen, you could even buy those in PSA 10 condition, many of them for under $100 each in PSA 10 condition. If you wanted to build a PSA 8 Wizards years collection, you could really get rolling and do some damage really quick. So a pretty cost-effective option, number 18, Wizards year cards, just something to consider. Autograph cards. This is where I plead absolute, complete, and total ignorance. I am an absolute noob when it comes to Michael Jordan autograph cards. I own two. One of them is a dual autograph with LeBron James, and the other one is just Jordan by himself. But that's it. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating, probably 10,000 Michael Jordan cards, and two of them are Michael Jordan autograph cards. So I am by no means an expert here. This is one conscious decision I made at the very outset, is that I am not going down this path. It required too much education. It required too much... I would have to divert too much of my time away from other things that I care about, which are the 1990s inserts per se, and to go down this path. And again, autographs are inserts as well, but non-autograph inserts from the 90s is my pathway. It's the path that I've chosen. It's the path that intrigues me and interests me the most, collecting those cards in as high a grade as possible. And so autographs, while amazing and appealing and visually, beautiful, and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of different autographs of Michael Jordan in a Bulls uniform that you could collect. I know a lot of people out there, it can get very expensive if you collect high-end Michael Jordan autographs and high-end Michael Jordan inserts and parallels. And so I know there are a lot of people out there that really do specialize in this niche right here of only Michael Jordan autographs. And so if I was going to pick up an autograph before I bought any of them, I would pick up one of these. In fact, I had a local collector friend of mine here in town who said, I don't have a Jordan autograph. He's a new Jordan collector. He leans on me for advice regarding refractors and parallels, and he's built up a nice little collection real quick. But he wanted to buy an autograph card, and he asked me, which autograph should I buy? And my response to him is the same as when someone asks me a tax law question. My answer is always, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't know what I'm talking about. But guess what? I know a lot of people who do. And so I put him in touch with a friend of mine who's in a Jordan group chat who they got to broker a deal together. He picked up a nice $10,000 Michael Jordan dual patch, serial numbered autograph card in high grade. And my friend was super happy. My Jordan dealer was super happy happy because he moved a card at a fair market value, and I was super happy because I got two people what they wanted. And so helping people in the hobby always makes me feel good. But again, I don't know a damn thing about autographs. Please don't DM me about autographs. You're going to get an answer that kind of reiterates how ignorant I am when it comes to that. Next, Bulls Years cards, right? So along the lines of the 90s, if you wanted to expand that to 80s and 90s all the way up until Jordan's retirement after his 6th and final NBA title, you could collect just Bulls Years cards, right? And so this kind of expands on the 1980s, the 1990s, and the inserts, and it incorporates a lot, right? So this is a very broad approach. This is probably... I don't want to guess here because, I mean, we'd have to take a poll, which would be fascinating if we could poll all the Jordan collectors in the world and ask them to kind of rank in order of priority what their focus is. I think this might be number one on the list. And so some people just dive in and they're like, I'm going to collect any card with Jordan in a Bulls uniform. I'm interested. Let's talk. So any Bulls Years cards, this basically, all this does is it basically excludes Wizards cards, right? That's really all this does, or fake or college cards, right? So no North Carolina, no Wizards, anything else Bulls, let's go get it, right? That would include 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Remember, there's Jordan cards from the 2000s, hundreds of them, probably thousands of them, featuring him in a Bulls uniform that are retro cards. So they're not Bulls playing years, they're just Bulls jersey cards. Or if you wanted to interpret this as Bulls Years cards, that means only the years where Michael Jordan actually played for the Chicago Bulls in a Bulls uniform. So that would eliminate cards from the 2000s that were, created like retro PMGs and retro cards and retro base cards and all that. Next, retro cards. This is interesting, all right? I don't go down this path. That's just me. Retro cards have become very popular lately. So I've got 4, I would guess, again, I'm not an expert on these, but I would guess the 4 that you see on your screen are relatively expensive. So for those of you who don't know what retro cards is, and I have to keep in mind that my prospective audience for this video is probably collectors that are new to the Jordan market. That doesn't necessarily mean you're new to the hobby, but just in case you are, retro cards basically are cards, let me make sure I get this right, and I may get it wrong, but my interpretation of retro cards are cards that are made to resemble cards that were originally produced in prior years, right? And so the 4 cards you see on your screen are called retro cards because those inserts or parallels that you see on your screen were created, actually all 4 of these were created in the 90s. You've got your, what would be a 97 green PMG on your left. Well, this is, again, my screen's too small, so I can't see it, but this is a retro PMG that it features Michael Jordan in his North Carolina uniform from the 2000s, right? This card was printed in the 2000s. Then you've got a blue PMG, same thing. Although they did not have blue PMGs in the 90s, they only had red and green in 1997. The next one is, I believe it's the championship PMG from 1998 featuring Jordan, right? There's an original 1998 Jordan championship PMG. Retro cards are much cheaper. I think that's a champion. Yeah, I don't know. No, not a champ. That's just the 1998 Metal Universe PMG retro. Again, like I said, I'm not an expert on retro cards, but retro cards are basically cards that look like cards that were created in the past, featuring the same and or different players. Like there's LeBron Jambalaya cards, from the early 2000s. Well, Jambalaya originally came out in 1998. If you haven't seen the episode and you want to know more about Jambalaya die cut cards, go watch Explore the Card episodes. You can search my playlist and watch those. So they're still making Jambalaya cards. There are a Marvel, you can go find a Spider-Man Jambalaya card. You can go find a Spider-Man PMG, Precious Metal Gems card. These are called retro cards because they are manufactured to resemble cards in a that were in a product, that were inserts or parallels in a product from years prior. So retro cards is another option. They are cheaper than the original, unquestionably, but they are not necessarily cheap, right? Cheaper, but not necessarily cheap. So retro cards is an option. Refractor parallels. Okay, this is a big one. For all of you ultra modern shiny lovers, right? And there's a world full of them, especially over the last 2 years. A lot of the influx into the market, silver prisms, gold prisms, fast break, disco this, select courtside, shiny this, optic hollows, people who like shiny cards that really pop and appeal. Guess what? That's not new. that existed in the 90s. You can go buy Michael Jordan refractor parallels dating back as early as the cards you see on the screen with his 93 finest. This card, this second card on your screen, second from left, is the first Michael Jordan refractor card ever made. There's refractors all throughout the 90s for Jordan. I will warn you, this is, along with the inserts, this is not cheap. In fact, it's probably harder to find a cheap Jordan refractor in any grade than it is to find a cheap Jordan insert. The inserts would be cheaper. The refractors would be more expensive. So even a low grade refractor, a PSA 7, PSA 8 refractor would probably be more expensive than your average. And obviously some of these Jordan inserts are extremely expensive in PSA 7. I'm saying your average, you can go find some cheap inserts. It's very difficult to go find some super cheap Jordan refractors. But if you're one of those ultra modern shiny lovers, consider the refractor parallel pathway. And there's just 4 examples on your screen. Again, this can take you well into the 7 figures, obviously if you wanted to build a massive collection, or you can kind of do it on a little bit of a limited budget. It just depends on the grade and the condition and whatnot. For those of you more interested in Jordan refractor parallels, go check out a video on my channel that I just released featuring the top 10 Jordan refractor card sales of all time based on value, and it's also got some honorable mention in there. It's a really popular video I did where I give you screenshots in a slideshow like you're looking at today, where we talk about the highest refractor Jordan sales of all time. It was a pretty popular video on my channel. So if you're interested in pathway number 14, go check that out. Number 13, jersey and patch cards. Okay, again, I'm pleading total ignorance. I don't do it. I don't touch it. The only Jordan patch card I own happens to be one of the 2 autographs that I mentioned earlier. So one of the Jordan autograph cards I have also has a patch in it, or a jersey patch in it. That's really the extent of what I have. Out of about 10,000 Jordan cards that I own, I have 1 patch card. So again, I'm coming from a position of ignorance. I'm only putting this out there because I know it's an option, and I know there are people out there that love to collect game used or just general game worn memorabilia. I do caution you and advise you to educate yourself on the difference between game used, game worn, player worn, and all that. I am not an expert. I am not going to sit here and do a video and break that down. Maybe I will if I research it and understand it better. But right now, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance. I am only putting this option number 13 on the screen because I know that a lot of these cards are just beautiful to look at. Some of them are extremely, extremely valuable. It can take you all the way. I'm not aware of any cards from the 80s that would have a patch, but it can take you from the mid 90s all the way through, the 2000s, because there are Jordan patch cards that are produced long after his playing days. And so Jordan patch cards could also encompass his Wizards uniform patches, his Bulls uniform patches, his only Bulls playing day patches. You can kind of bifurcate this or trifurcate this, these Jordan jersey patch cards into, eras or uniform colors. So you could get, I guess there probably are some North Carolina patches out there. I don't know. You could take this a million ways, but this is another way to get into the Jordan market if you wanted to kind of stay focused and narrow your lane and really get educated and digest in one particular area. So next, number 12 on the list is just Carolina cards, right? I'm not sure how exhaustive or how many Michael Jordan North Carolina cards featuring him in a Carolina uniform exist out there. I know there's a good chunk. If you go search Michael Jordan North Carolina on eBay, you're going to pull up quite a few cards. But I've just got 4 options on there. Some of them may be expensive. Some of them may be crazy cheap. This is probably, if you really just wanted to amass an army of Jordan Carolina cards, this would probably be one of the cheaper options out of the 23 options we're going to look at in this video. So just letting you guys know it's out there. This does not appeal to me at all. I've never really felt compelled or felt the urge to dip into the Carolina the Carolina Jordan cards. That's just me, and I don't know what it is about that. Like, I don't collect college jersey cards to begin with of any players, and so along the same lines, I never really got into the Carolina Jordan cards. Number 11, base cards. This one is fascinating to me because there are thousands thousands and thousands and thousands. So as I've told you, my primary focus is collecting and investing, because it's a collecting and investing joint endeavor. 1990s Jordan insert and parallel cards from the 90s in Bulls jerseys, right? So yes, do I bleed over into other categories? Absolutely. This is one where I very much so bleed into. I do collect Jordan cards in gem mint condition base cards. Again, some base cards, his 86 Fleer, for example, is going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. His 87 Fleer is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. But as you kind of trickle away from those rookie years and get into the 90s, some of the lower end products, you could pick up base cards in PSA 10 and BGS 9.5 condition for $100. Some of them less than $100, depending on the product. Now, some of the products, if you're talking about 1997 Metal Universe, you can get back into the thousands. If you're talking about EX 2001, you're talking about dipping into the high hundreds. There's also This is a fluctuating scale, right? You can spend a ton of money. You can really do this on a nice tight budget. I like this, right? If you're a brand new Jordan collector, this is one piece of advice that I do feel comfortable giving. I think it would be a good idea. Again, this is from a collector perspective. This is not from a how much bang for your buck can you earn on an investment. I'm not telling you to go buy Jordan cards. A lot of these cards are not rare. A lot of these cards are extremely high population, meaning there are a lot of them out there. I'm trying to remember that my audience might be new collectors generally, and they may not know some of these terms that we throw around in the hobby all the time. The population is how many of a particular card in a particular grade exist in the world. Base cards generally are higher population cards. That is not always the case, but it is often the case. Base cards are generally not as expensive as insert or parallel cards. That is not always the case, but that is often the case. So my best advice to someone who is brand spanking new to basketball card collecting on a tight budget would be to look at collecting base cards. If you don't know what that means, just kind of dig a little bit further. But this gives you a huge option. You could collect thousands and thousands and thousands of base cards and never collect all of Michael Jordan's base cards. I don't know a single person who has every Michael Jordan base card from the 90s. And I know some really big Jordan collectors that make me look like a minnow. And they are whales. So base cards is a great option to get in. That's a great way to just get in and then start to educate yourself. Learn about the base sets, and then you can learn about the inserts and the parallels within those sets. Next on our list, number 10, Jordan baseball cards. I don't personally know anybody who does just Jordan baseball cards, but it's an option. It's out there. There's a lot more than you think. And let me tell you, when Jordan switched over from basketball to baseball, I don't think those card manufacturing companies were happy about it, but they were not going to leave any money on the table. They printed the heck out of Michael Jordan baseball cards. There are 8 billion different Michael Jordan baseball cards out there in those just very 2 short years that he played baseball. So go educate yourself if you're interested in these. The card that's pictured probably second from left right there with Jordan in the red jersey taking batting practice, that's probably his most popular card featuring him in a baseball uniform, but that card was actually produced before he left. That was just him taking batting practice one day with the White Sox, if I recall, or maybe a minor league team, I can't remember. But that upper deck card is probably his most commonly recognized. It's not his most valuable by any stretch, but it's probably the most recognizable baseball card that Jordan has. But it's actually before he went to play baseball. So after he went to play baseball, there's tons of pictures, cards of him in White Sox and Birmingham Barons jerseys. So anyway, that's an option. Again, it's not the road most traveled. It's probably the road least traveled, but it's an option along with the foreign cards, another road that's very not tread very often. So baseball cards are an option at number 10. Parallels, oh boy. So and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, and I'm not going to get into too much detail. I've got 4 parallel cards on your screen. There is a difference between an insert card and a parallel card. You can even have a parallel insert card, like this card on your left, this Star Power Plus. The Star Power Plus on your left, this green card with Jordan shooting the right-handed layup, is an insert card, but it is also a parallel of the insert card. So a parallel card is a card that, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. it sort of looks like a card that's in the set, but it's more rare. I guess it's a I don't know. I'm not good at that. Chris on House of Jordans and Card Ladder and Josh and them would be much better at defining parallel. I know a parallel when I see it. It's basically it's called a parallel because it's similar to a card that's in the set, but it's unique. Something about it makes it unique. Whether it's a members only stamp or it's a first day issue stamp, as you see on your screen, or the color of it, like this PMG red, is different than the base 1997 Metal Universe card, or this Star Power Plus is different than the Star Power. So those are all parallel cards you see on your screen. Along with inserts, this can cost you literally you could get into millions and millions of dollars. Or you could, collect them in lower grades and focus on, lower level parallels and still build up a really unique collection. So this is for people who don't want cards that are as common as the base cards, but have a unique history. And these are cards that when pulled out of a pack, your eyes would light up and say, "Ooh, I hit a Jordan parallel." It's a big deal. So it's not like pulling a base card out of a pack, which you expect to pull every certain number of packs. It's it's a pack insert. There are pack odds. So these cards are not run-of-the-mill, everyday cards you would pull out of a pack. If you pulled one, you'd be very excited. In higher grades, this can be incredibly expensive. In lower grades, it can be done. So parallels is another option. I also collect parallels. I collect inserts and parallels from the 90s featuring Jordan in his Bulls uniform. So right there, I've already told you, that's 4 different slides that I've combined to form, I kind of merge those together and combine all those to that's my focus in the hobby. Next is Star Brand cards. I haven't touched these, right? I used to own a couple of these on the right that you see over here, these Slam Dunk. These oversized jumbo cards, but I stopped collecting them. For those of you who don't know, PSA does not currently grade star cards. I think at one point for a hot minute they did, so they do exist. So if you see a star card in a PSA slab, it means 2 things. Number 1, it's rare, and number 2, it was graded very early in the game before PSA decided, you know what, there's too many fakes out there. We're not an expert. We're not going to screw with it. So if you see star cards, you're probably going to see those in BGS slabs for the most part. And for those of you who don't know anything more about star cards, I'm not a super expert. I know enough to know I'm not an expert. These cards were manufactured in the 80s, and I think they were given away in like team sets or certain sets. They were not pack-pulled cards. So the most popular star card is this third card you're going to see right here. It's the 1984 Star number 101 Jordan XRC, which means it's an extra rookie card, which means it is not his true rookie card. That right there is going to get some comments in the video. If you're new to collecting Jordan and you don't know anything about Jordan's rookie card, one of the enduring arguments, this is like Russell versus Wilt and Magic versus Bird, and this is going to go on forever. There are people out there who claim that this 1984 star card on your screen, the third one from the left, is his true rookie card because it was earlier than his 1986 Fleer card, which was pack pulled and produced years after Jordan had been in the league. They will allege that the star card is his true rookie card, and then there is a whole nother faction of the hobby that will allege that his 1986 Fleer card is his true rookie card because it was pulled from a pack. Everybody seems to be on one side or another. I don't really care. I would love to pick up a copy of the 84 star card in a relatively high grade. I just need to position myself to do that. But star cards are fascinating. They're interesting. They feature skinny Jordan in the Ugly Bulls uniform, with the terrible font across the front. I don't know how many there are, but it is a digestible quantity. I know that there are not, it's an identifiable quantity that can absolutely be collected. And the lower the grade, the cheaper they are. But primarily, you'll be looking for these cards in BGS. My best advice, and this is me not knowing anything more about star cards. Again, I'm not sitting here saying I'm a star expert. I'm anything but. I would recommend, if you're a new collector and you're new to star cards, this is what I would do. I would only purchase them in a BGS slab, and I would try to stay consistent with that. I would not buy raws because it is a well-known fact that there were fakes printed. There were aftermarket prints done, and so I would make sure it's authentic and in a BGS slab and collect it in that manner. I wouldn't go out and buy a bunch of raw star cards unless you're an absolute expert at spotting fakes. And honestly, that goes for all of the cards. That goes for everything on our list. I would not assume a raw card is real for any of the cards or any of these, 1 through 23 that we see. That's just me. I've always kind of, when it comes to Jordan, I've always kind of focused on buying graded, specifically PSA or BGS graded, just because those are the two brands that I choose to collect. But star cards are another option, guys. It can be very expensive or reasonably cheap depending on the grade that you purchase. Next, PSA 8, 9, 10 cards. Okay, so I combined these into one slab because I wanted our number to be 23 for, it's not a coincidence. Jordan was number 23. So I wanted 23 ways to collect Michael Jordan, not 27 or 29. So this is an approach that I think a lot of people take. They only collect PSA 10s. Right? So if they're gonna buy a card of a Jordan, they're only buying PSA 10s. Maybe that's the investor. Maybe that's the grade snob. I don't know. But as you go down in grade, from 10 to 9 to 8, it's going to get much, much, much more cost effective and affordable. So some people like to build PSA 8 collections. Some people like to build PSA 9 collections. Some people like to build PSA 10 collections that span all of the other 22 options that we've seen on our screen. Does that make sense? And so this is kind of an overarching way to attack the Jordan market and Jordan collecting in general, is that you can just buy PSA 8s and try to build an army of PSA 8s. I've actually started to look at doing some of that with some of the more rare inserts from the 90s, just kind of dipping my toes in the water. I might already have a PSA 10, star power that you see on your screen, the third card from the left. But I might pick up a PSA 8 as well and just build a little PSA 8 Jordan collection, maybe that I hand off to one of my kids, when they get to a certain age. Or maybe you just love collecting so much that, you want to have a 10, a 9, and an 8 of various inserts. That's an option as well. But kind of focusing your collection on a certain grade and then ignoring everything else as long as it has Michael Jordan on the slab is another option and another way to collect. Along those same lines, do it for BGS, right? And I didn't do a slide for SGC or CSG just because there's not as many, but you can do it for BGS as well. You can collect just BGS 8.5, just BGS 9s, just BGS 9.5. So everything that I just said about PSA also applies to BGS. Or maybe you want to collect only BGS 9.5 quad gems where all subgrades are 9.5. That's fine too. This is just something that I wanted to throw out there because it's an idea. I will tell you my personal approach. If I can get the card, if the card is an affordable card and not a grail, I'm not talking about PMGs, I'm not talking about jambalaya, I'm not talking about Playmakers Theater. If I can get the card in 9.5 BGS or PSA 10, I get it. That is my goal. Again, I own a Jordan Red PMG. I'm not even aware, there is no PSA 10. I'm not aware if there's a BGS 9.5. I've never looked because it doesn't matter to me because I can never afford it anyway. So there are cards in my Jordan collection that are not BGS 9.5 or PSA 10, but that is my overarching goal, right? So I may pick up a BGS 9, and that's a placeholder because one day I want to add the BGS 9.5. Like I recently did this with the Lynch pins. I had a Lynch pins 8.5 for years and years and years, probably honestly almost 3 years. And then a 9.5 just became available on Facebook from a solid, reputable seller, and I picked it up. And so now I'll put that BGS 9.5 Lynch pins in my collection. The Lynch pins is an insert from the 90s, for those of you not familiar. And I will sell the BGS 8.5 to recoup some of my costs. So I always build towards BGS 9.5 or PSA 10 if at all possible. And sometimes that means you have a placeholder of an 8.5 or a 9. But my collection doesn't feel complete until I have the 9.5 or the 10. That's just me. If you're brand new and you want to collect on a lower budget and a lower scale and just buy a lot of cards instead of just buying one card a month, if you collect in BGS 8.5, you can buy 7 cards a month. It's the quicker way to get more cards the lower the grade is. But BGS is another option if you want to buy just a certain grade. Serial numbered cards. Okay, this one can get really expensive. If you have a Jordan serial numbered card from the 90s, it's relevant, right? So this is like at the other end of the spectrum from base cards. There are not a lot of low budget options from the 90s for Jordan serial numbered cards. Like if you're collecting inserts, there are low value, low budget insert Jordan cards from the 90s and PSA 8 you could pick up super cheap. There really are not very many Jordan serial numbered cards from the 90s in PSA 8 that you can pick up cheap, because that serial number lets the world know how many there are out there. So, a couple things to remember when picking up serial numbered cards. Generally speaking, the lower the print number of the serial, the more expensive. That's not always true, but that's often the case. Some of these cards, there are like backdoor copies that are printed without the serial numbered on there, like this card that you see on the left of your screen, this Take It to .net Jordan insert, which is beautiful and gorgeous on your screen. That card is numbered to 1,000, but there are copies of that card with no serial number at all. I personally would stay away from that. That is just me. Again, if you don't understand that and you want to do more research on it. But all the cards you see on your screen are serial numbered. Some are more valuable than others. But serial numbered cards is an option if you want to stick to cards with a known quantity of production. So instead of looking at pack odds, they've got serial numbers. So that's your way of knowing how many of them there are out there. So that's that's number 5 on our list. Patch auto cards. Okay, now I was about to cuss. I'm not going to cuss. When I see what's on the screen, it makes me want to cuss. Sorry. Eye-popping, fascinating. Do I wish I could do it? Yes. Do I have the budget to do it? I do not. So this is where I absolutely slam the door. I have to, because if I didn't, I would dip into this market, and then I just don't have the finances to collect inserts, parallels, patch autos, this, that, whatever. So patch auto cards, we've talked about jersey / patch cards. We've talked about autograph cards. Well, this would be a niche where you collect only cards that feature both of those characteristics, patches and autos. And this is where things get crazy expensive. There are not any Jordan patch auto cards that are low budget, to the best of my knowledge. If someone knows of some, please share with me in the comments what cheap Jordan patch auto cards that they are aware of, because I'm aware of none. So this would be a high budget approach to the hobby. And super fascinating. There's I shouldn't say millions. There are many options of Jordan patch auto cards to collect featuring him in a Bulls or Wizards uniform, or sometimes even a Carolina uniform. So this is just another option to consider. But this would be for very, very high budget collectors who wanted to jump into the Jordan market. A lot of my friends collect these. And I'm always fascinated and happy to see it when they post it in our group chat or on Instagram. There's some really amazing Jordan patch auto cards out there that can take you well into the 7 figures. Raw cards. So just like we talked about collecting cards in a certain grade, this is throw everything out the window. If it's got a picture of Michael Jordan and it's raw, collect it, right? Raw Bulls, raw Carolina, raw Wizards, raw baseball. Raw insert, raw parallel, raw autograph, whatever. One of the best collectors and one of the biggest Jordan collectors in the world, Michael Caddick, is a friend of mine, MK Sports Cards. He's got he does have graded cards as well, but he loves to collect raw cards. And he's just got some of the greatest raw Michael Jordan cards you've ever seen in your life. And so this is a lot of old school, I shouldn't say old school collectors, but a lot of extremely knowledgeable collectors prefer to have their cards in the original condition that they were when they came out of the pack. The only reason they grade them is to authenticate those cards. And sometimes they don't, because they know they're authentic. So they prefer to maintain those cards in raw condition. Number one, it'll save you a lot of money if you're buying them in raw. But I'll tell you what, it does require a great deal of expertise. Expertise in, identifying the proper condition, so you know that you're paying fair market value. Expertise in identifying real from fake. That's what scares me the most. I'm not educated enough to distinguish between a real and a fake 86 Fleer. Could I be? Sure, if I wanted to spend time educating myself, but I don't need to, because I own my Jordan 86 Fleer in a graded PSA slab. The same can be said for, the Hot Shots and Big Men on Court and a bunch of other Jordan cards that are often replicated and faked out there. If you're truly educated and you really want to dive in and learn what's real, what's fake, and how to spot them, or you've got somebody who is an expert in that capacity that you can lean on, fun, then collecting raw Jordan cards really does open the door to collect more cards, because for the most part, raw cards are going to be cheaper than their graded counterparts of the same card. So collecting the cards in their original condition that they were when they were pulled out of the pack is an option if you wanted to get in the Jordan market. There are tons of Jordan raw card collectors out there. I'm not one of them. That is not my path, right? That's not me. I need closure. I need protection. I need security. I need security upon security. That's just me. That's just my OCD nature. But there's some fascinating raw card collections out there that absolutely put my collection to shame. So raw card collecting Jordans is certainly a viable and popular option out there. Collecting just certain brands, right? Topps, Skybox, Fleer, Upper Deck, Hoops. I just listed 5 brands on here. There's a lot of other products out there for Michael Jordan card collecting. I put some bangers on this screen, right? I got your Jordan BGS 10 on there, right? I think there's 3 of those. Maybe it's 6. I can't remember. It's either 3 or 6. I get that in the Star 101 confused. But, collecting a certain product is one way to narrow your Jordan collection so you don't spend out of the wazoo to put a collection together. Hey, I only want to collect his Fleer. Or you can combine number 2 with one of those prior slides. I only want to collect his Fleer base cards. Or let's combine 3. I only want to collect Michael Jordan Fleer base cards in BGS 9 condition. You can combine any of these 23 options, guys. You don't have to pick and choose. If you've got unlimited money and you've got deep pockets, and you're a Rockefeller or a Kardashian, or Logan Paul or Jake Paul or Chris Paul or whatever their names are, you can collect everything on our screen, everything that we've looked at today. But if you wanted to kind of narrow your search and collect just a particular product, you can do that. And now collecting a particular product like Skybox might include Skybox Premium. It might include Skybox, inserts. If you wanted to collect Topps, it would include Topps and Topps Finest, or maybe you want to collect only Finest. But guess what? That's going to include inserts and parallels and different grades. So you can kind of pick and choose and tailor how you collect Jordan. There's a million different ways, and collecting by product is just another option. And then number 1 on our list, but not really number 1, it's just the last one that we're going to talk about because we wanted to do 23 of them. I'm not saying this is the best, but you can collect just Jordan die cuts, right? For those of you not familiar, die cut cards are cards that are not in the typical rectangular shape. So these are cards that have been laser cut or die cut. I should have put cut cards because it would include, your Beam Team laser cuts and, your platinum portraits and different cards like that, and your linchpins, cards like that are like punch cut or laser cut or whatever you want to call it. But misshapen Jordan cards is what I should have called this. So that would be an interesting little niche if you wanted to get into the hobby. I've got 4 pictures up here. Some of these are $100,000 and some of them aren't, but you could pick these cards up. And die cut cards could include, as you can see on card number 3, autographed die cut cards. Many of the die cut cards are base cards. Most of the die cut cards are inserts, and some of them are insert parallel cards. And so die cut cards, even though that is a nice little specific niche, that does bleed into some of the other categories that we talked about today, which is parallels and inserts and refractor die cuts. There's all kinds of die cut cards is just another option of a way to jump into the Jordan card market. So that's 23, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Things to remember: there's no one right way to collect Jordan. You can do it on a tiny budget. I don't want new collectors to be afraid to get into the market. Just start reading. Just get on Blowout. Just get, turn on YouTube. Watch my channel. Go binge watch Cardboard Chronicles. Go binge watch House of Jordan from back in the day. Just go type in Michael Jordan basketball cards into YouTube and just see what comes up. So one thing to remember is there's no right way to collect Jordan in the market. You can be the highest end of the highest end, or you can be like me, right in the middle, or you could collect on a teeny tiny budget and collect only raw base Jordan cards and still have a blast doing it and learn a lot while you're doing it. It's super fun, and gradually you'll work your way up. Many of these niches, I keep saying niches. I know it's probably niche, but I feel weird saying niche. I took Spanish in high school. But many of these niches blend together and overlap. I can't stress that enough. As we've talked about, I think I encompass like 11 of the 23 that we talked about, right? I don't collect UNC, I don't collect Wizards, but I do collect refractors, right? Which leads me, or parallels, which leads me into Jordan Wizards refractors. So Many of these blend together. It's very difficult to really truly extricate just one of these and eliminate all the other 22. And like I said, I could have listed 40 or 50, but those are just 23. So they all blend together. But if you want to try to kind of control your budget and you're new, this was just to give you 23 ideas of how to attack the Jordan market. Maybe you pick 2 or 3. Maybe you pick 1. Maybe you pick all 23 because you got deep pockets. And then lastly, the only thing I know for sure is that the more packs you choose, the more expensive it will be. I cannot stress that enough. If you say, I want to collect Jordan, and you just jump on eBay and type in Michael Jordan PSA 10, you're in for a world of hurt, okay? The best advice I can give you is to spend hundreds, not hours, hundreds of hours educating yourself, watching content, reading. Find someone who knows, sit down, pay for their lunch. It's worth it. Pick up the phone, call them, DM someone. I cannot stress enough. I am not kidding. Hundreds of hours before you jump into the Jordan market. So your money is well spent. Again, I'm not telling you to get into Jordan to collect and invest. And it's a fantastic investment. That's not what we're getting at. I'm trying to just give you options of ways to get into this Jordan market. I hope this video helps some of these new collectors out there. I'm sure it's going to be a conversation piece from people out there who have much bigger Jordan collections than me. If I misspoke on any of these topics, forgive me. Again, I don't espouse to be an expert on all Jordans. I don't know anybody who is. I'm in a group chat with some of the most incredible Jordan collectors in the world. I mean, I'm talking people. They have 5 cards worth more than my entire collection, right? 5 Jordan cards worth more than my entire collection. They don't know everything about Jordan cards. They ask other Jordan collectors in our group chat questions all the time. Is this real? Is this fake? Does this serial number look right to you? Hey, tell me about this card from Brazil, Stanley. Hey, I don't know anything about Jordan Refractors. Tell me about this card. These are people with 7-figure collections asking other Jordan collectors questions about $300 Jordan cards. So anybody out there who tells you they know everything about Michael Jordan basketball card collecting is a liar. They are not correct. I am not here to tell you how much I know or prove to you how much I know. I'm telling you I know a fraction of what there is to know, but I love learning a little bit every day. I love picking up a card I've never seen before. I see cards that I've never seen before all the time. The other day I picked up an SP Excitement card. I had never seen it. It was beautiful. It was fascinating. I was like, I don't know anything about it. I know I want that card. So I picked it up. I ask questions later, right? That's not my advice, but educate yourself. And don't be afraid. Jump into the hobby. Find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Go follow a bunch of Jordan collectors on Instagram and just start watching. You're going to pick up stuff real fast and you'll be able to jump into this market. It is a fascinating, fun part of the hobby. It is truly a microcosm of the hobby, right? It's a world within a world. And then within that world, as we've seen from our 23 options, there's worlds within worlds within worlds, right? The Jordan Auto world, the Jordan Patch Auto world, the Jordan Just Patch world, the Jordan Refractor world, the Jordan Insert world, the Fleer Jordan world. You know, again, you can go in any direction you want depending on what your budget is. I just wanted to show you guys some cool cards and give you some ideas of how to get into it. Hopefully this video helps some of the new collectors get into the market, get over that fear, and join us and have fun with us collecting Michael Jordan basketball cards. As somebody with very, very high-end Jordans and very, very low-end Jordans, raw base Jordans sitting in white boxes that I still like to look at, I can tell you this is the most fun I have ever had in the hobby, is collecting Michael Jordan basketball cards from the 90s. So hopefully this video helps you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications button, because I'll go all the way from ultra modern shiny prospecting all the way back to George Mikan and his goggles in 1948 and talk about tons of stuff in between, including just NBA stuff, not necessarily NBA basketball card stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. I can't stress that enough. Stay positive in the hobby. This needs to be fun, man. Let's take away some of the stress and anxiety of the real world and jump into our basketball card collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. And peace. Thanks for watching.